For those eagle-eyed viewers looking at the news over the course of the weekend, the name Roger Jardine should now ring a bell. He's a former CEO of Rand Merchant Bank, CEO of Prime Media, a big-time CEO, has now created a political platform, not a party, a platform, because that's how they all start these things. They don't just say, we're creating a party to be present, we're creating a platform to hear people speak about whatever issues they are particularly facing. And there were rumors that Roger Jardine was offering, or his funders rather, were offering R1 billion to the multi-party coalition so that Jardine could be the presidential candidate for 2024. As far as we know, that deal did not materialize, but was this perhaps an attempted coup of the opposition of South Africa?
Now, the interesting thing here, Ramon, is that we see a lot of these smaller parties set themselves up, and they set themselves up to say, we're competing for the 2024 election, but they're not actually there to take the ANC's votes. They appear to be basically a minute party whose specific goal is to attack the DA and its coalition alliance.
Yeah, but this was not an attempt to attack the DA. It was an attempt to take over the DA. The reports are that close to R1 billion was offered to the multi-party coalition so that Mr. Jardine can become the presidential candidate for that coalition. If that is the case, if the R1 billion is correct, that is essentially a bribe. It is a bribe by big business to allow Jardine to become the president of South Africa. And it's important to state this. Jardine is and was a member of the ANC. He worked in Nelson Mandela's cabinet. He's friends with all the old Mbekiites. His new party or platform, or whatever you want to call it, is filled to the brim with hardcore communists, hardcore ANC loyalists. But now, all of a sudden, he wants to be part of the opposition. Alarm bells from rigging. Because the multi-party coalition is trending at 35% of the vote, the ANC is trending at 40% of the votes. What people are realizing now is you can't actually save the ANC, but you can perhaps take over the opposition. And if you want to take over the opposition, this is how you do it. Offer R1 billion bribe and get a reasonable CEO to become the presidential candidate.
So what you typically tend to find these days is that the ANC isn't really going to get back to the level it was pre-1994. It's not really going to get back even to the level it was at 2003. So if you want any of those constitutional changes, you need a majority. ANC's days of the majority, yeah, that's gone. And the actual days of them being able to get the 60s and 70% numbers needed to make constitutional changes, it's just not going to happen. So the ANC needs to think, well, if I'm going to get in there and I'm somehow going to get back to where I was, one option would be to reform, like Cyril did, right? Yeah, remember that reform? Cyril's reform? It never happened. The other option is to go, why don't we partner with the DA? If we get a partnership with the DA, we're well over 70% of the vote. We're back to where we were 2003, baby. This is the ANC's way of basically trying to reverse the clock so they can go back in time, ride other people's coattails, and somehow get them into the future and kind of delay the collapse of the ANC. The problem is it's not working, is it?
Well, I think this is very distinct. This is not the same as a coalition between the ANC and the DA. This is ANC funders taking over the multi-party coalition. These are funders who happen to be white mostly, who funded CR17, who funded Cyril Ramaphosa to the hilt and back because he was a reformer. Now they understand that failed. They can't revive the ANC, so they have to destroy the multi-party coalition. And the best way to do that is to bribe them to become a Mbeki light ANC type of party with Roger Jardine as the head of that particular entity. So the entire grift was not to make the ANC better, it's to make the opposition worse. So when the opposition becomes the Mbeki light ANC, it and the ANC itself merged together in 2024, it gains 66% of the vote, and the ANC lives long thereafter. The DA disappears, Action SA disappears, IFP disappears, everyone disappears because of a R1 billion bribe. But according to our sources, the bait was not taken, and the DA has refused this deal. Thankfully.
Yeah, just thankfully. And you may think to yourself, how did the ANC come up with this ingenious strategy? Yeah, it's only PF did it. So all that the ANC's done is tried to copy ZANU-PF's political strategy. That's how the ZANU-PF has stayed in power so long. It's just not working in South Africa. So for all of you who think to yourself, we're just going to send into another Zimbabwe. Yeah, maybe, but not under the current DA administration. At least with the current DA administration, they were smart enough to see this for what it was and say no.
So at the end of the day, my view is that the ANC is panicking a lot. A lot. And I'm not saying the ANC was responsible for the strategy. I'm talking about funders of political parties are responsible for this particular strategy. Roger Jardine is a Trojan horse for the ANC. His entire party is filled with communists and ANC acolytes. This is not someone who knows about politics. This is not someone who knows about reform. This is not a Caesar who can save South Africa. This is someone who's going to get 0.5% of the vote and cancel Ride Mzansi at the polling. That is it.